Welcome to the next episode of Brandland. I am Garrett Justice, and today I am joined by Chris Panebianco, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Bankers Healthcare Group. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Garrett. Thanks for having me.
Did I screw up your last name? Should I just call you Chris P?
You know what? You can call me Chris P. Of all the podcasts I've been on, you got the closest to the pin with my last name.
Okay.
So you win the prize for this year.
I was practicing. I had to write it out beforehand, but hey, we're super excited to have you on the show here today. I know you're joining us from upstate New York, cold time in upstate New York right now, but hope you're hanging in there. Again, super excited to dive into our topic today.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm one of the few people in upstate New York that doesn't ski. So why I moved back here from Florida, I'll never know. But we're hanging in there. It was 17 degrees yesterday.
Well, hang in there, man. I know how that goes. I lived in Minnesota for a few years and it gets chilly. So,
oh yeah, same climate.
Hey, Chris, before we dive in today, why don't you give our listeners a little bit more context on your background and what BHG does?
Sure. So for me, it's a little bit of the hard knocks. I learned on the fly, had that shiny degree and no internship and no idea what I wanted to do. I know I always loved creative and I love to write and read. And I just had some really cool people come into my life and, hey, what about this? What about this? And, I felt a little bit like ping pong, but over the years, I worked for some really cool companies and had some cool experiences, internship after college with a great agency in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then that just snowballed. I've worked for agencies. I've worked on the private side, digital agency, traditional agency, and then Bankers Healthcare Group. And BHG is actually, we pride ourselves on being one of the earliest fintechs. We were founded in 2001, and we found a niche of healthcare professionals that needed working capital, commercial working capital. And what we found was that they didn't have time to go to a bank. There was no online lending. Mm-hmm. And we created, our original founders just created a seamless process, and they believed in sales and marketing and a great customer experience. And they started that. Today, we pride ourselves on lending to all professionals. We have both commercial and consumer lending. We also have one of the largest, if not the largest, network of community banks, well over 1,200 today, that purchase our loans from us and we do business with. We've partnered with them, creating the BHG Bank Network. We also have one of 14 non-bank SBA licenses for 7A, and we have a full suite of credit cards, not to mention awesome. Patient lending and collections, which I'm very excited about those brands and what we're going to do in the next 2 to 5 years. So we're all over the place. I like to equate BHG to that adolescence where we're finally starting to understand where we are and who we are. And, we keep that startup mentality, and we've got great owners that believe in marketing and give me the ability to do it. So 12 years later, still having fun, and every day my feet hit the ground, I'm ready to go.
So awesome. And I'm excited to dive into that background and your story and some of the things that you've learned the last 12 years or so there with BHG. What I really like about it is it's kind of one of those under the radar brands. Like if you don't work in the healthcare space or the finance space, you just might not have heard of your company, but some pretty amazing growth. Like you mentioned some of those statistics. Looking at your company, over 850 employees. And then I know when you joined, it was like less than 50 people at the company, right? And so seeing that growth, I think there's a lot of learnings that can come. They'll be super valuable that I'd love to dive into today.
Definitely. When I had the unique luxury of seeing BHG from the outside. They were my client for almost 3 years prior to that when I worked at Mindcomet, a mid-size agency that was in Orlando. And I was introduced to Al Crawford, our chairman and CEO, over a game of golf, and telling him some of the things we did for Disney in their recruiting. And, in typical BHG fashion, hey, the next time I'm here down in Fort Lauderdale, why don't you come down and I want you to meet my partners and let's see if there's any synergy. I didn't put much weight into it. And sure enough, a week before, hey, come on down to Fort Lauderdale, let's talk. And before you knew it, they were a client. So for a couple of years, what I found, I worked with really amazing brands that everyone knows: Florida Hospital, Disney, Speed TV, ADT. My interest was always leaking over here to BHG. And I'd find myself on the phone with Al or Bob Castro or Eric Castro, the three original founders. What are you guys doing? Hey, what do you think? How can we take digital? And what they originally brought us in for was email. We want to email our customers. And I can say this now because I've been here long enough, but I looked at their website and I said, no way. Everybody at MindCommon said, no way, don't take them on as a client because we will fail. So we ended up building we rebuilt their website. And right around the time that we got into the email and some of the other digital opportunities, Al and Eric, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, a little Godfather-esque, but it was their passion and the way they looked at their employees. And again, we only had 49 or 50 people when I joined, and it was infectious. I'm like, these guys are going somewhere. This is crazy. And, we've always looked at ourselves as a speedboat versus the oil tanker, how fast we can move. And so, it was it took a lot. When I got here, my first day, I'll never forget, the previous gentleman that had run marketing sent a cardboard box, a moving box down. And I got there and I looked at it and I literally sat there for an hour and I said, what did I just get into? And it was different. So, again, it's been the ride of a lifetime. I literally every day jump out of bed because I'm excited about what today can bring. And it's an infectious, we call it PMA. Everybody in Syracuse and Fort Lauderdale sees our shirts. It's positive mental attitude. And that means different things for different people, but it's a culture. And we've been able to keep that from even before I got on, from the original 3 to 50 people to now, in COVID, we've hired 400 and we have over 828 people now. So it's crazy. But as you said, the brand, you wouldn't really know us. That was intentional. And I always laugh when I talk to people that say, well, I don't know who you are. Well, that's, the people we lend money to, who we lend to do. But in the last 18 months, we've switched. We did lend it out in San Francisco in 2019. And that was really our first step out onto the main stage to say, hey, we're okay. Because we didn't want to poke anybody and give away our secret or, do the wrong thing. But now we've matured to a point with technology and finance that we are starting to come out of the shadows. So it's really phase 3 of my journey at BHG is now really shifting towards brand. And it's different.
That's awesome. Well, I think, great brands are focused and they focus on their audiences. And so there's a reason why, like you said, that, if you're not in that space, you wouldn't have known of your brand. But as you grow, again, that a broadness, you broaden a little bit and that awareness grows. But, I want to go back a little bit, as you and I talked about, what should our topic be today? You kind of shared some insight about, that early stage working with BHG, even before you joined, right? What was your perception of BHG's marketing? Because I know you've mentioned to me that none of those initial founders, I mean, you were one of the first marketing hires. There were a few people on the team maybe, but it seems like marketing was maybe not as well understood by everyone there in terms of what it is and why it's important. So first, what was your perception of BHG's marketing? You talked about the website and other things. Yeah. And then second part of that question is, what were others internally at BHG? What were their perceptions of marketing right around that time you joined?
That's a great question. Bob Castro, one of the 3 founders, he was the owner that took care of marketing. He had one guy that did a little bit, but all they did was direct mail. And they did a lot of it. But I mean, he was someone that I learned. I had done direct mail when I worked for a mortgage company. That's how we lived in Central Florida. But the skill and the art form that direct mail really is, from the outer envelope and all the different intricacies, I got a lesson. The day I walked in, and I'll never forget this, I came in hotshot from the digital side. Oh, we got to have personalization. We got to have color. You got to, everything. And he let me go. In the story, it's one of those fishing stories. It grows by the year of how much we actually spent and how miserable my first direct mail campaign at BHG flopped. We'll just call it $35,000. But when I came in, they were sending 20,000 direct mail pieces a month. And our clientele, our audience, was doctors, dentists, and vets, owners, and practices of 1 to 3 practitioners. And all we had was commercial working capital. So that is what I walked into. And, they had ideas. And again, on the other side of our business, Al has built brick by brick this bank network that I mentioned earlier. And he did it over 19 years of getting on a plane Monday morning, flying out to the middle of Oklahoma and working his tail off, driving, staying in the worst motels because they didn't have money like we do now. And they, it wasn't the BHG of today, but he handshake, service and provide a great product. And our product, which is the front side of working capital for healthcare at the time, it performed. And Al had his word and he had the credibility of the company and he had a work ethic. Now, you throw Eric Castro in, who understood all of the origination and how do we underwrite and how do we get these deals closed. When you see that, that's the story I had of these three guys and a couple admins. They built this with $25,000. And, it's one of those things, Garrett, that was the impression. It's work. And if you're going to join this company, you're going to work. It's like that today. I've seen the most successful people come in, big resumes, big experience, and they can't handle it because we work. We roll up our sleeves. Al and Eric are the two remaining founders. They're as involved today as I've ever seen, and they don't need to be, but they are. So the whole company, you look to your left, you look to your right, the C-suite's down in there. They're writing content. Al and I go back and forth on the weekends over things, but it was that setup of this is how we're going to get there. If we put our heads down and we work, good things will happen. So again, marketing was 20,000 mailers a month. I came in and I said, well, are you guys open to some different things? Obviously my failure taught me very quickly to listen to my mentor there, one of my mentors. And what we've done is slowly, it's been a slow build from 2009. And every day we're trying to do one thing better. And, we can get into a little bit more of it, but it was direct mail. There was no digital. There was a website and an occasional email that went out.
So, what I love about that as you highlight that and just kind of share that experience and what kind of drew you to the company and that leadership, to me, that's exciting as a marketer because there's already a strong brand internally with these strong leaders there. There's a culture that's been built as you're describing that. And, any good marketer is going to be able to see that and realize, oh man, now how do I help these people take that to the world? Right. Because sometimes that's the hardest part of creating a really strong brand and strong marketing is it authentic? And if it's not authentic, right, people will eventually see through that. So when you can find that authenticity, that can get you really excited as a marketer to really help then people understand, like these leaders, what are those other channels or mediums to kind of take that message then to the world, right?
Yeah. And everybody's open to it, and again, it was a slow build, but one of the important things was being able to make mistakes. And I look at it this way. BHG has been a tremendous ROI driven, KPI driven marketing machine and sales machine. This year, the last couple of years, as I mentioned with Lend It, we've started to get that other pillar of just brand. Well, brand is, we got to get out to our customers, but we've got to build a culture that we're able to attract. We've brought on top talent from Amex, Goldman Sachs. We're able to do that because that brand has been split. And now there's a bigger focus. And it's, I love our chief revenue officer and every CFO we've ever had. I always drive them nuts because I would come in and say, hey, we can do this, but don't expect ROI immediately. And it was always that dance of the right amount of ROI. How do we cut this off? But we got to test. So now we've really matured in our ability to say, we're going to take this budget and we're going to go over here and we're not going to expect immediate ROI. That's going to lead. How does this tie into these other channels? And that's been the biggest shift in the last 2 to 3 years. But trust me, we're still looking at every dollar. I could tell you down to the penny, every dollar we've spent and what the success rate has been across every channel, across every subject line, every direct mail, outer envelope. We still know all that. But, again, the focus has shifted more towards brand. And we're about to go through a rebrand this year. This is our 20th year. We figure as we've gotten more to Wall Street and we've expanded, Bankers Healthcare Group might not be the end all and be all, so we've got to look at how we're positioning and how the world sees us. And fortunately, we've got a large base that can help us with that.
Awesome. That's great. So going back a little bit, I want to dive in on one more piece on this. So you started this company, as one of the first marketing employees. they're doing direct mail, which seems like they're doing it pretty successfully, but that's it. I mean, at the agency before you joined, you helped revamp this website, and they're talking about email and stuff like that, right? So as a new marketing leader, seeing that where the focus really is direct mail, direct mail, direct mail, where did you decide to focus your efforts in that first stage when you first joined, and why? Were you focused on doing more direct mail? Were you focused on expanding to other channels? Like, what was your thought process and when you first joined, and your
Yeah.
process of working through that?
Number one, it was always direct mail. And that was where we went. So it was expanding into different type kits. I'll never forget when I came up with an idea. It was a 4x6. It looked like a wedding invitation that your grandmother would write, or a thank you card. We found a company, RST. I don't know if they're still in business in Virginia, and they did a lot of political mailers. I had met one of the guys, and he's like, "Hey, we have real pens. We have 25 machines, and they have these big pens." And so we focused on that, and it worked. Our best piece we've ever done was I think it was my second or third year with the company. It was our insurance card that came from a company called Coventry. And I'll never forget, I got a Post-it note in the envelope on my desk. "Chris, see me. I like this." So I went, talked to one of our owners. He's like, "I think this could work. Figure out how to get our content on here. It's got a little pop-out card." And, so that's where it was. It was always about, open your eyes. What do you see out there that other people are doing? How can we take it, expand? Can we spend a little bit more money and have a better piece? One of the biggest things was adding a plastic card to our mail in 2011. That changed everything, the response rates, because we were going, and this is the big thing early on, was we were going to the office for all of these professionals. We started to hire better and better people in analytics and data, and they said, "Hey, I think we can get home addresses." So we started doing, everything evolved. So, but it was always direct mail for, I would say, the first 6 years, up until about 2014, 2015, when we said, "Hey, this Facebook thing might work." And again, in a sales environment, you have sales leaders that, they're driven by their conversions, and you got to figure out these new channels. So that was a big, big step to say, "Hey, let's just bring in 100 leads." When I started, we were driving in, if we had 500 to 1,000 leads a month, we thought that was good. Today we're doing 25 to 30,000 leads a month. So, you've had to expand into digital, but it was all direct mail all day long. We partnered. I was one of the first. We had a couple marketing people before, but one thing that the owners allowed me to do, we had a small internal team that I built, like 3 or 4 people, and we worked with the Madison Ave shop. And then we tried a different. And what we found was that I needed people that eat, breathe, sleep, repeat BHG, and really understand what it is and always be thinking. So that's what led to today. We have 40 people on the team, and we're growing.
Yeah, so awesome. Well, side note is, I think that one of the most underutilized, underestimated channels is direct mail for many, many different types of companies. We need to have you back on another episode, and we can just dive deeper on direct mail one of these
I could talk
one of
direct
these
mail.
days.
I love it. Yeah.
So you focused on that direct mail. What I like about that is you focused on what was working, even though you came from this digital side, right? Where that's what you were familiar with these on the agency side and other stuff. You didn't, dismiss that channel because you knew it was working. So you focused on that, but then you slowly started introducing other channels, more digital channels. What was it like changing the perceptions of maybe some of the other people at the company at that time that marketing could do more than just direct mail? Walk me through your process, and how did you approach that?
Ironically, the owners were already there. It was everybody else, the sales team, because again, what to expect with the quality, the performance of a lead that comes through direct mail. The owners were the ones that pushed me back into digital. We obviously have a digital component of our direct mail. So optimizing that, looking at personalization and how do we craft that experience if they don't want to call in. That was always there. So it was never just solely direct mail, but as an origination channel, it was. So we started early with just one Facebook campaign. And that was back when you literally just went into Facebook and you had 8 different categorizations that you could, filters. And then you threw some money behind it and, hey, throw it at the wall. I hope something comes in. And, typical reaction is, "Oh, these are terrible." All right. So now, it was showing that, and I still go through it today. We're about to expand into channels we haven't been. We've never really done TV. We've never focused on video. We've never done satellite radio. Our performance marketing, it's going to take time to go in, especially now as we've become much larger. I got to convince a lot more people and I have to get their buy-in. So I have a great relationship with our president of sales. Our analytics team, everything we do, we have 50 of the best data scientists. They don't even let me in the room with them. They're afraid of what I'll do to them, but they are brilliant and everything's a model. But we have a data team that they've got 35 different partners and we're pulling all of this in. And it's a really well-oiled machine that allows us now to take this data and use it as a guide to say, hey, let's go into this channel. We're using our own data to go in and interact with these platforms, which gets you a lot more buy-in. Everybody believes in the data scientists. So I'm not just going out for, willy-nilly here and saying, hey, we're going to dive into this and spend 10 grand and I'm going to bring in 1,000 leads and hope it works, guys. That's not what we're doing. We get a lot of buy-in, and that's a culture that Al and Eric have created and maintained, is that we are partners. We're all, Al loves to say, all oars in. He loves that, the rowing. You have 18 oars that if one's out of sync, the whole boat fails. Yeah. And so before we dive in, it takes a little salesmanship for my part in the analyst, but I always have an analyst with me. So we're looking at the possibility, we segment, and then we test. And then we're very quick. Like I said earlier, we're that speedboat that we could go in, and I love it. My digital folks, they'll go in and say, hey, we're launching this on Thursday. I'll get an email Sunday morning. Hey, we stopped this because it was resulting in this. We're not married to any strategy. And that's something that I learned from these guys, just to be okay with it. Fail fast, learn fast. I think Amazon applies that model. And some people talk about it. We've lived it from day one when I got here.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So some things that really stand out to me from what you just said is, one, the importance of, as a marketing leader, that internal sales and bringing people along. I think another underutilized, underappreciated marketing channel is the power of internal marketing. And as a great marketing leader, right, especially as the organization grows, more of your time has to be dedicated to bringing people along with what your department's doing and why they should care, right? And I think that that's so important, and I'm glad that you pointed that out.
It's hard too, you get focused on what you're doing, and it's been, I will tell you this, I'm not perfect. The way I lead is I share with my team, hey, don't do this, guys, watch out for that brick wall. Or, you have to pull your ego back, because you can have the most beautiful creative, the most well thought out plan. And then someone comes in at the last minute and says, hey, that might not work. And you have to be open to that. You have to balance. Do you listen to that? Do you pull back, or do you push forward? And what I've been fortunate to do is bring some really good people in around me that don't say yes. They say, that doesn't make sense. It's not as much siloed. There's a lot more group think, and also people from the other areas of the company. I listen to sales. We have a production meeting every week where it's the analyst bringing it in. Hey, here's what's going on in marketing. Sales, this is what's going on. Anybody have any feedback? Listen to the folks in credit. Listen to the folks in funding or the closers. What are they hearing, so we can adjust quickly across all of our ecosystem? And you do have to have buy-in. That is one of the things I wish I had focused more on in college, is the psychology. I'm reading a lot of these great books. If you could see my office, you can see it back there, but my desk is a mess. I've got psychology books. I've got advertising books. I'm reading this great book, Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Also biology. My wife walks in here and I have Steal Like an Artist over here too. She's like, what are you doing? I posted notes all over the place, but a lot of it is going back, and it's not only selling the customer, making them believe in your brand, which again hasn't been a focus for years. It's been with the people that come in, we build that brand, but also the people to your left, the people to your right. Because if something's out of whack, a customer will feel that. They'll feel it in your messaging the minute they interact with your company. If our salespeople aren't aligned with what we're doing in marketing, or the analysts haven't given us the right roadmap of where to go and who to go after, the customer, not only will they feel it and go away, they'll now jump online. And again, any lender can agree. I would hope they'd agree with me. Nobody's perfect. You know, nobody is perfect. We've done 75,000 loans and we've upset some people, you know, whether it was a bad or our customer service rep had a bad day, or it's finance, we have to decline people. That creates a little bit of venom. So there's a new little wrinkle over the last 5 years with Trustpilot, TrustLink, the Better Business Bureau that you have to focus on. So it's not just brand, it's not just ROI, it's this whole other community now, good and bad, that you have to assess. So again, it's been interesting, and we're getting better every day. But the internal sale is definitely something that a marketer has to pay attention to.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, one other thing that stood out to me from what you were saying as well is just your process for choosing which channel to invest in, right? When you started with that direct mail, I love that you talked about you're bringing data, you have an analyst with you, and you're helping sell internally, you're capturing ideas from others. So I guess to that point as well, talk to me a little bit more about that process and what that's been like, you know, back to when you first started expanding channels, you know, beyond direct mail to where it's at today. What's your process for deciding where to expand, what channels to invest in, and why?
It's a great question. And it's not always, there's no simple answer. Honestly, Garrett, I think a lot of times we're a culture that we test. Hey, you know, like right now we're looking at TikTok, you know, and I've heard that it's come up. It's been that quiet whisper from multiple people. And in the past, oh no, nobody, it's young kids and it's lip syncing videos and not so much. We lend to nurses. There's a lot of nurses on there. But again, we're not going to go and advertise BHG has working capital. We're going to try something different. So I think we're looking at the data. We're using psychographic behavioral information to say, here's who our customer is. Here's who we want. What information can we get about their habits, about what they do? All right, get there and then test. Create the budget, fail, try, get partners. But again, it's always, you mentioned the growth. It's 2012 is when everything changed. And we hired our first lead analyst. And he came in and started asking questions that we just done it. Throw it at the wall, see what sticks. I mean, I used to pull reports that were so archaic that I would be doing it, you know, for the first couple of years. And he brought that sense of stability and experience. And then he built the team around him that branched out into pure reporting, pure analytics, data acquisition. I used to manage our data, the partnerships with 2 vendors. I didn't do it right. You know, I just did what they gave to me and I took what they had and I was focused on direct mail. So when we started to branch out a little bit, everything we do is measured, setting KPIs and testing. Now, digital was the first area because we were so heavy. Everything came in direct mail as much as 4 or 5 years ago. 98% of our lead flow is direct mail. So nobody paid attention to this little digital thing. There was someone that told me, you know, we'd never get more than 500 leads in a month from digital. Just can't do it. And I would push the BHG way is that's not good enough. Let's do 1,000. Oh, you gave me 1,000. Let's do 1,500. And what we found was that we were able to do it. And we were able to push into these new channels like Facebook. Our Google, our PPC program is huge. But you had to just keep trying and failing and trying and failing. Nobody was really monitoring it until it became, oh, well, now it's 10% of our lead flow. All right, let's get an idea here. If sales is struggling, you know, the reporting, everybody. So the chatter happened. And then we came together as a team and it took a while. This was not easy. It wasn't this beautiful handoff that you might hear. It was, you know, a slobber knocker here with, you know, a little bit of boxing, a little bit of, well, we believe in that. Well, and now we've really changed that to where our analysts and marketing, data analytics and marketing are so integrated that, you know, we brought a gentleman on from his fintech that has totally revised the way we do direct mail and the way we look at digital with the proper testing structure, with the proper rollout. Email, we dug into email a couple months ago and we're already in January 200% over goal because this gentleman came in and said, hey, there's a better way to do it. Hey, how? He asked the questions because as anyone knows in this kind of economy, you create rules to exclude data or, you know, what data are we going, what channels, we forget about it. You've moved on. You're moving so fast. He went back and from the outside said, well, why do we have this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? So again, it's been a gradual build, but the use of analytics to say, look, dial it back on this channel or just keep it in a marketing nurturing, and then graduate it up to a sales rep when it gets to this type of lead. Or, we have that insight now that is going to allow us to go into YouTube, to go into TikTok, to go into TV, to go into satellite radio. But it all started back with direct mail and one owner believing in direct mail and being the one responsible. So, I was telling you before, I really haven't stopped to say, wow, we've done all these things. We've done 3,000 different direct mail pieces with different tweaks, envelope, thickness, color on the inside. What's in 3,000 in the 12 years I've been here.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I can go back and tell you I could literally tell you almost every one of them.
Wow. It's very cool. It's cool to kind of see that and see the evolution of that. So I guess going back to what we really started with at the beginning of this conversation, right? Where it was, you had to work to kind of change that perception of marketing and expand to other channels. How would you describe now, today, the company, BHG leadership, as well as other employees? What's their perception of marketing today, and how has that evolved from 12 years ago when you started?
I think the biggest thing that is the use of data and analytics and the confidence. It's like anything else in life. You have to build confidence in everybody around you. But our ability, our chief revenue officer, our head of sales, for us to work together to say and open up the curtain, marketing isn't done in a bunker, and it's done together. We have so far to go. There, by no means have we figured it out. We have multiple product lines. We have all these things that we have to now, but it's opportunity. So I think for anyone, it's really to find out who your customer is, who are the people talking to your customer, what data do you have available, who are the people in charge of that data. And it's your job as a marketer, even if you had come from a company of 50, if someone would have told me that 12 years ago and said, get the data people in the room, get the sales people in the room, get the technical people, your COO, get them all in the room and talk about who's our customer, what data do we have, what are our life cycles? We look at it as cold, preferred, and organic. How can we create, where's the low hanging fruit? Let's just throw a dart, see what works. But have people that can measure it, and then make sure you're listening to not only your customer, but the sales team. They are your biggest allies in the field, because they all know that 24/7, if I get a customer and I'm on every email, every survey, even with the thousands and thousands, I see them all. And I dedicate part of my day and week. They know they're getting an email from me. If a customer comes back and they say, hey, this wasn't good, the customer is always right. And I think the other area that gives me a little bit of an edge is I grew up on a potato farm, and I also worked in the service industry. I was a bartender and a waiter. No matter what, my manager and I used to get defensive and say, oh no, that customer was I said, it doesn't matter. They're not coming here and they're telling 10 people that this was a worse restaurant. Congratulations. You can go be right. So that mentality has really helped me. And whether you're at 800, if you're at 25,000 employees, if you listen to the customer and you bring people in to be a part of marketing and everybody feels that they're a part, you will be so far ahead, and it breaks down those walls. So when you come up with a crazy idea or a creative or whatever it is, they're going to buy in because you brought them in. And it's so powerful, Garrett. And I don't think people focus enough on it today.
Yeah. Excellent advice. And I think you answered my last question before I even asked it, which was just, for those people listening right now, based on what we talked about today, what advice would you give yourself, who is that first marketer at that 50-person company? I'm sure we'll have a lot of people who are kind of in that boat or will resonate with, where you've been at in the course of your journey. What advice from the last 12 years would you share with others? And I think you just shared a couple of those pieces. Anything else you would add?
Yeah, I would get a sketch pad and I would go to every leader in the company and I would listen to credit, listen to the sales folks, listen to your admins. I talked to the guy talking on the phone. What's the tone you're getting? And I tell my team, open your ears and get outside of marketing, because there's nuggets in there and it will help you. You'll find the essence of what your company is. Ours is service, concierge service. We're still a hybrid fintech that does a lot. We have the personal touch. You're not just a number. You're not just going online. You can do that, but you can also pick up the phone 7 days a week. And that was one of those ones I had to convince people. Guys, we should be open 7 days a week. We deal with healthcare. We deal with busy professionals. I mean, Garrett, you yourself, if you needed a loan, you don't have time in normal business hours. You might have time on Saturday when the kids or everybody's leaving you alone for a couple hours. We better be there. So that came from listening to our customer service team, which we have one of the best. Our leader of customer service, this guy's a pro, man. He deals with people about payments, about everything. And everybody loves him. Our customers love him. So my two things. One is listen. And then the other one is understand the data. Ask the questions to say, even if you don't have the team that I've been graced with, because again, it was one analyst before it was 50 data scientists, but get close to them and say, hey, what do we have? Who is our audience? How can you take more than one bite of the apple? Because a lot of companies do that. And I've seen it. I've been in some big fintechs behind the scenes, or I've met with a lot of people, and they take one bite and throw it away. And it's like, did you ask your customer, is there more that you can do for them to create that stickiness? We found in 2014 that our organic population, we used to let them go. They would, and the gentleman, our chief revenue officer, created our whole organic department because he said there are times where they're going to need money again. And it was just a brilliant strategy that we had all overlooked. We were this close to everything. And someone from the outside came and said, why aren't we doing this? Yeah. So if you can surround yourself with people like that, ask the questions, and then start to understand the needs of your client. Are they in direct mail? For financial services, believe it or not, it still works. And not everybody's going to be on TikTok. You got to go out there, but find what works, and then spend your time, compartmentalize your day, in your week, in your month, with saying, can I just turn one of those? We deal in OKRs and KPIs, the tangible, the qualitative, and the quantitative. What can marketing change from a qualitative perspective? And how does that look on the quantitative side? I talk with our analysts. They're like, Chris, if we can just get 1 basis point response rate, that could be X amount of money. So let's just shoot for a 2% gain. That gives us that. And every month when you look back after a year, you've done it. And again, there are times when I came in, I had no reporting. We had no analytics. So you have to use your vendors if you can. And you don't have to be a genius to figure this stuff out. Look at your content. I went through cheap plug with StoryBrand a couple of years ago. Someone on my team, and then my own brother, we went to Nashville and we sat through StoryBrand. We got certified. We went through the 3-day course, and it changed how I look at it. And 2 weeks ago, I looked at our direct mail. I looked at our email. And I said, guys, we're talking about ourselves. It hit me. StoryBrand literally fell off the shelf behind me and hit me in the back of the head. And so now we're going through these exercises of changing it up. Yeah. So, I could talk for days, Garrett. I don't want to bore your audience.
No, that's great.
I get so wound up when you think of all the little things you can do that people try to say, hey, I need to be the next Google. I need to launch the next big app. Well, guess what? I hate to tell you, there's an app for everything. So why don't you dial it back, especially if you're a small company? Say, what do we do well? How can I take a little bit and, crank it a little bit and see? And then I think you got to have a little bit of a screw loose to enjoy the gray area of marketing, and then get the buy-in of everybody around you.
Yeah. It's about that incremental improvement, a little bit better each day and each week. Right. So Chris, this has been awesome. Amazing insights I think you shared today. Super valuable, I know, for me, and I'm sure many listening as well. So, as we wrap up here today, if there are others that have questions for you or want to get in contact, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email. I'm addicted to my email. I shouldn't be, and I shouldn't say that, but simple, cp@bhg-inc.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's my new favorite thing to do, except for the relentless amount of people that can change my business. But I'm engaging in a lot of conversation, and I just love to see what other people are doing. So LinkedIn, email, I would be happy to talk to anyone. That's one thing I was always taught, is pay it forward and really give back, because if someone can hear this, or, I want to help. That's the one thing I enjoy doing, because I'm not perfect. I screw up every day. Whether you ask my kids or, my boss, I'm not perfect. And I love failure, because it teaches you something. It really invigorates me. So, reach out. I will set down whatever I'm doing, off hours, weekends, and I just love marketing, and I'd love to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Hope you have a great rest of the day and week.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot, Garrett.